There's an incidence of strange cancer that is about 3 times the national average. One of the deals that unions have made with dockyard management over the years is that anyone working in the nuclear facilities who gets cancer gets immediate £2,000 and kept off work, but private health care, as long as they've signed both the Official Secrets Act and the collective agreement that gives them specialist care. And of course that specialist care is kept off the National Health Service statistics. Now they want to have Plymouth, a city of 250,000 people, as the centre for the decommissioning of all nuclear vessels. At the moment in Plymouth we've got 12 nuclear submarines, all being decommissioned and are bobbing for years at anchor, spilling radiation into the atmosphere and into the sea, with people not sure what to do. Shipping them abroad is very expensive, doesn't solve the problem, and doesn't make, most importantly, any profit at all. The second option of sawing them into compartments still has the issue of what do you do with the bits, but is a safe option, but again won't make any profit. The third option is to have it sawn up into little pieces and store them in drums in waste storage facilities that look to you and me like warehouses in the centre of the city. And there are massive profits to be made out of this.
Chopping up the reactors and the reactor compartment is new work, it's cutting edge, therefore they can charge the MOD billions for doing it. Nowhere else in the world do they chop up reactor compartments. They store them whole. The reactor compartment is purpose-built to withstand bombs, not to leak radiation, so it's obviously the safest place to keep a nuclear reactor. But it just seems ludicrous to spend all these billions when we don't need to, and we have a perfectly safe method of storage there waiting to be used.
Once you've got all the national submarines and nuclear vessels being decommissioned in Plymouth, then it's the logical place for all the nuclear vessels from America in particular, because we have this special relationship, but then other navies across the world to bring their vessels to Plymouth. And of course Babcock Marine is looking for that because there's huge profit to be made per vessel. Nobody is going to come and live anywhere near a city so contaminated.
There have been 2 public consultations already, and we're coming up for the 3rd. The first 2 consultations with the public didn't get the answer that the MOD and the contractors wanted, so we're up for a 3rd one until we get it right. It's going to ask the question, can we build a technical demonstrator in your city to cut up one submarine just to give it a try, to see if we can do it safely? And there's a huge trap built into this. If you build a facility to chop up one nuclear submarine, you have to get the planning permission, you have to build the facility, you have to have the dry dock to cut the submarine up, you have to go through all the regulatory hoops to get permission to do it. Once you've done that, you're certainly not going to go somewhere else and build another facility. Wherever they build the technical demonstrator will be the final resting place for the 27 nuclear submarines.
Nuclear waste at any level is unsafe where there is any population of more than 5,000 in a 3-kilometre circle around it.
Obviously the MOD won't accept this golden rule, but we've been trying to preach it for a long time. These sort of facilities shouldn't be next to centres of population.
People talk about nuclear power as being somehow a green solution, when actually nobody knows. Scientists have no idea how we can safely get rid of nuclear waste.
The more nuclear activities you have, the more waste you have, whether it's from a submarine reactor, whether it's from a nuclear power station. It's all nuclear waste, and a lot of nuclear waste remains lethally radioactive for thousands or tens of thousands of years. If you actually look at the whole production cycle of nuclear power, it begins with the mining of uranium ore in other countries, a very dangerous and very dirty process. Many people die, very polluting. Then it has to be brought to Britain, then you have to build the power stations, then you have the decommissioning of the waste afterwards and the decommissioning of the power stations. So if you take the overall productive process, it's not carbon free. Even if you were prepared to overlook that, if you thought, well, climate change is such a big problem, we need to deal with that now. The fact is, it takes, on average, 12 to 15 years to build a nuclear power station. And that's too late. And it's also too little as well, because at the moment, with the existing nuclear power stations, we produce about 4% of Britain's total energy needs. So just to carry on producing that small amount, you'd have to rebuild all the nuclear power stations because they're coming to their end of their lives. If you wanted to increase it, you'd have to double the number of nuclear power stations. Where are you going to put them?
The government's spending £76 billion renewing Trident. That money could be so much better spent. I mean, it's ironic really that that's then having an impact on Plymouth, in one of the poorest parts of the country, in one of the poorest parts of the city, where that money is needed desperately for better housing, for better schools, and that's being spent on the nuclear weapons that are then having a direct impact on people's health in that area.
The Trident nuclear weapons are supposed to be independent deterrents as part of the British military establishment, but in fact they're absolutely tied to American military, and effectively it's the Pentagon that decide where they're deployed and how they're used. They call it a deterrent, but in fact Trident can only be used as a first strike nuclear weapon. There's a new fleet called Vanguard, twice the size of the old nuclear submarines, berthed in Plymouth, and they spend 2 years here being refitted. They carry the Trident weapons. Sometimes the Trident weapons are in Plymouth, though they always deny they're ever here.
The biggest threat facing this country isn't nuclear war, it's climate change. There's very little money actually being put to developing renewable energy. We hear the government talk about it all the time, but they're not actually doing anything to move that agenda forwards. If the dockyard could be transformed into somewhere that was producing wind turbines, renewable energy, and developing those sorts of technologies, it would provide loads more jobs than the nuclear dockyard, and it would actually be tackling the real threat to this country and to the world, which is climate change.
The dockyard has been a great source of work for the city, historically. When I went into the dockyard back in 1965, there were 21,000 people. When I left, it was down to 13,000. Now it's less than 5,000. So you can't now argue that the jobs are worth having.